Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranchana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranchana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jambishpad Paramahams Vivekacharya Ashtotarashatra Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Seventh Canto, The Science of God, Chapter 5, Prahlad, the saintly son of Hiranyakashipu, Text 24. It's on the board. Yeah, we're going to go back to 23 tomorrow. So if everybody could please repeat after me. Iti Pumsar Pita Vishnu Bhaktish Chen Nava Laksana kriyā Bhagavati Adha Tan Manye Ditam Uttamam Iti Pumsar Pita Vishnu Bhaktish Nava Lakshana kriyā Bhagavatya Tanmanye ditam uttamam iti pumsar pita Vishnu bhaktish chendava lakshana kriyā bhagavatyada tanmanye ditam uttamam iti pumsarpita Vishnu bhaktiścennava Laksana kriyate bhagavatyada tanmanye ditam uttamam Iti, thus, pumsa arpita, offered by the devotee, Vishnu, unto Lord Vishnu, not to anyone else. Bhakti, devotional service, chet, if, Navalakshana, possessing 9 different processes. Kriyā, one should perform. Bhagavati, under the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ada, directly or completely. Tat, that. Manye, I consider. Aditam, learning. Uttamam, topmost. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Prahlad Maharaj said, hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes of Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming His servant, considering the Lord one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto Him. In other words, serving Him with the body, mind, and words. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. One who has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, for he has acquired complete knowledge. So we have purport. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So we've made some progress with this purport, covering a couple pages. Now we're going to the second process of devotional service, Kirtanam. And it's not necessarily that we're going to break every class into a process, speaking on a particular process, but we've done that so far, and I'm going to do that today. But like, for example, tomorrow, Smaranam is quite short. Of course, you could speak a lot, even though Prabhupada, you could say it's relatively shorter than the other ones. You could speak quite a lot. And then 4 is also quite shorter. And then Archanam is quite long. And then you have Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam, which are quite shorter than the other ones. So anyways, we'll see what happens with the other speakers. But at least today we'll go through Kirtanam. 2. Kirtanam. The hearing of the holy name has been described above. Now let us try to understand the chanting of the holy name, which is the second item in the consecutive order. It is recommended that such chanting be performed very loudly. Oh, someone may say, what if I don't have a loud voice? Well, as loud as you can. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Narada Muni, we had some brahmachari, had a really loud voice. Like, he'd lead Mangalarti and it was so loud. But all the devotees in the temple, somehow or other, they had soft voices. So he would become quite agitated because he'd be singing very loud, and everyone else would practically Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. They have a very loud voice, and then you hear everybody, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Everybody in the temple had soft voice. But I guess if you, I don't know, maybe if you combined all those soft voices singing as loud as they can, you would match his voice, maybe. That was Vraj Mohan. So as loud as possible. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Narada Muni says that without shame, he began traveling all over the world, chanting the holy name of the Lord. Similarly, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has advised, Trunadapi sunichena, torodapi suhishnuna, amanina, manidena, kirtaniya sadaharihi. A devotee can very peacefully chant the holy name of the Lord by behaving more humbly than the grass, being tolerant like a tree, and offering respects to everyone, without expecting honor from anyone else. Such qualifications make it easier to chant the holy name of the Lord. The process of transcendental chanting can be easily performed by anyone, even if one is physically unfit, classified lower than others, devoid of material qualifications, or not at all elevated in terms of pious activities. The chanting of the holy name is beneficial. An aristocratic birth, an advanced education, beautiful bodily features, wealth, and similar results of pious activities are all unnecessary for advancement in spiritual life. For one can very easily advance simply by chanting the holy name. It is understood from the authoritative source of Vedic literature that especially in this age, Kali-yuga, people are generally short-living, extremely bad in their habits, and inclined to accept methods of devotional service that are not bona fide. Moreover, they are always disturbed by material conditions, and they are mostly unfortunate. Under the circumstances, the performance of other processes such as yajña, dāna, tapaḥ, and kriyā, sacrifices, charity, and so on, are not at all possible. Therefore, it is recommended, Hare nāma, nāmaiva kevalam, nāsteva, gatir, anyathā. In this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is chanting the holy name of the Lord. There is no other way. There is no other way. There is no other way. Simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one advances perfectly in spiritual life. This is the best process for success in life. In other ages, the chanting of the holy name is equally powerful. But especially in this age, Kali-yuga, it is most powerful. Kirtanam Krishnasya mukta sangha padam vrajet. Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, one is liberated and returns home, back to Godhead. Therefore, even if one is able to perform other processes of devotional service, one must adopt the chanting of the holy name as the principal method of advancing in spiritual life. Yajñar sankirtanat prayar yajantihi sumedasaha. Those who are very sharp in their intelligence should adopt this process of chanting the holy names of the Lord. One should not, however, manufacture different types of chanting. One should adhere seriously to the chanting of the holy name as recommended in the scriptures. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. While chanting the holy name of the Lord, one should be careful to avoid 10 offenses. From Sanat Kumar, it is understood that even if a person is a severe offender in many ways, he is freed from offensive life if he takes shelter of the Lord's holy name. Indeed, even if a human being is no better than a two-legged animal, he will be liberated if he takes shelter of the holy name of the Lord. One should therefore be very careful not to commit offenses at the lotus feet of the Lord's holy name. The offenses are described as follows. A. To blaspheme a devotee, especially a devotee engaged in broadcasting the glories of the holy name. B. To consider the holy name of Lord Shiva or any other demigod to be equally powerful as the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one is equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nor is anyone superior to him. C. To disobey the instructions of the spiritual master. D. To blaspheme the Vedic literatures and literatures compiled in pursuance of the Vedic literatures. E. To comment that the glories of the holy name of the Lord are exaggerated. F. To interpret the holy name in a deviant way. G. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name. H. To compare the chanting of the holy name to pious activities. I. To instruct the glories of the holy name to a person who has no understanding of the chanting of the holy name. J. Not to awaken in transcendental attachment for the chanting of the holy name, even after hearing all these scriptural injunctions. There is no way to atone for any of these offenses. It is therefore recommended that an offender at the feet of the holy name continue to chant the holy name 24 hours a day. Constant chanting of the holy name will make one free of offenses, and then he will gradually be elevated to the transcendental platform on which he can chant the pure holy name and thus become a lover of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is recommended that even if one commits offenses, so this is close to the end, close to where we'll stop. It is recommended that even if one commits offenses, one should continue chanting the holy name. In other words, the chanting of the holy name makes one offenseless. In the book Nāma Kumodi, it is recommended that if one is an offender at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava, he should submit to that Vaishnava and be excused. Similarly, if one is an offender in chanting the holy name, he should submit to the holy name and thus be freed from his offenses. In this connection, there is the following statement, spoken by Daksha to Lord Shiva. I did not know the glories of your personality, and therefore I committed an offense at your lotus feet in the open assembly. You are so kind, however, that you did not accept my offense. Instead, when I was falling down because of accusing you, you saved me by your merciful glance. You are most great. Kindly excuse me and be satisfied with your own exalted qualities. One should be very humble and meek to offer one's desires and chant prayers composed in glorification of the holy name, such as Ai Mukta Kularupasyamanam and Nivrittatarsha Upagiyamana. One should chant such prayers to become free from offenses at the lotus feet of the holy name. Om Ganitavarindasya Kananjana Shlakya Chakshu Militam Mena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Kalidvachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yakripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Denitarinam Bancha Kapidubishcha Kripa Sindhubevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Can you close those doors, Damaras? There's the doors that are separating the pujari room and the kitchen. Please. Right, so we'll read the verses one more time. Prahlad Maharaj said, hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes of Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming his servant, considering the Lord as one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto him. In other words, serving him with the body, mind, and words. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. One who has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, for he has acquired complete knowledge. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy, they're having a discussion in which Ramananda Roy was taking the role of the instructor, and Lord Chaitanya was taking the role of a student. And he wanted, the whole basis of the conversation was that Lord Chaitanya wanted him to, you could say, explain the highest truths, which was eventually led to Vrindavan and Krishna's relationships with his different devotees in Vrindavan, and also, conjugal relationship and so on. And part of that conversation, in the earlier stages of the conversation, is that the question is brought up, who is the most learned person? And of course, we know the answer, right? Yeah, Krishna is the most learned, that's true. But who comes after Krishna? Yeah, the devotee is the most learned person. And as this particular verse is stating here, that one who's dedicated his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, for he's acquired complete knowledge. One devotee, some years ago, he was a little critical of His Holiness Giriraj Swami, and I'm a disciple, so of course I was offended. But it was publicly also. It was like a public criticism in Los Angeles. And I was in the class. And there was a bunch of devotees there. It was like a big festival. And it wasn't like a absolute, form of blasphemy. And he wasn't just like going off, as they say. But it wasn't right what he said. It wasn't right factually, and it wasn't painting a good picture of His Holiness Giriraj Swami. So this particular devotee said that yes, Srila Prabhupada, he encouraged Giriraj Swami to go back to school, and Giriraj Swami in a college, and Giriraj Swami didn't do it. And then he went on to say how I did it, how he went to college and how he got these degrees, and he was quite successful, and he's a professor, and he's a professor and so on. He became quite successful in that sense. But what he was saying was that His Holiness Giriraj Swami disobeyed Prabhupada and didn't do what he said, which was not right. And I knew that for a fact, because some years prior I got an email from my spiritual master in which, it was quite a number of years ago, in which he was sharing with me a letter that Srila Prabhupada wrote him. And the letter was saying how he heard that his disciple Giriraj Das Brahmachari was a could say scholarly type, and that how his father wanted him to go back to school. And then there was some discussion about that. So then my spiritual master wrote back, and he said, that he wanted to, he really appreciated being in the temple with the devotees, engaged in deity worship and the holy name and book distribution, and how he really appreciated that, and how he wanted to stay with that. And then Prabhupada, he agreed with the idea, and he said, very good. And he said, when Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya were speaking, the question came up, who's the most learned man? And it says, one who becomes a devotee, one who surrenders his life. So this is a very good, no need to go back to university. So I heard that. I mean, I knew that. And then I was hearing this devotee saying that he just like disobeyed him. And then Prabhupada really wanted him to go, but he just didn't do it. But Prabhupada was completely satisfied with him not going. Right? Who's the most learned person? So then my spiritual master, he came to that festival. And then in the morning, this devotee gave the talk. And then I told my spiritual master about this and how I was disturbed about this. So then somebody's joking around. They put pineapple juice in here. It's pineapple juice. Yeah, from yesterday's offering. Somebody's messing around, huh? Who was that? So I told my spiritual master. He just he said, "No, that's okay. You know, that's all right. Don't worry about it." He was just saying. But then I pressed a little more, and I said, "Yeah." I said, "But he was saying something that wasn't right. It was wrong, and it was." And he said, "Okay." And he said, "Let me look something up." So then he looked up those letters of Prabhupada. And he came and he gave the talk. And there's a bunch of devotees there. And that devotee who gave the talk, who said the statements, he was also there. So then he was giving the talk, and it was at a Prabhupada festival. You know, those things of the past. It might have disappeared now a bit. But so it was at a Prabhupada festival, Memorial Day weekend, and so he was giving a talk, and then he said, "Well, I don't mean to diverge too much from the topic, but something came up, and there was some talk about me, you know, how Prabhupada wanted me to go to school, but I didn't. So then he said, so I came prepared." And then he pulled out his phone, and he had this, you know, he was looking, and he had a letter, and he read it. So you could say that it was corrected publicly, which was good. Anyway, so, but it may, you know, those who you could say have, you know, their brain firing, you know, or those who tend to be brainy or thinkers, it may be hard to, you could say, get away from the temptation of speculation, right? Or intellectual gratification, such as, you know, that you find in universities. In other words, the desire to go to the university may be a hard material desire to give up. And those people are quite, I mean, just look up some videos. I mean, they're, you know, there's stuff going on up there, you know. What type of vocabulary they use, what type of questions they ask, because generally we think, oh, these people are just namam duskritina mudha prapanyante naradam. They're just a bunch of... But there is a difference between these sinful types of people. You have the mudha, right? The brain is not firing. They're working like a mudha, like a donkey. Their brain is not firing, and they're just gratifying their senses and beast of burden, right? You have the naradamas, the typical examples of Jagannamadhi, but then you have the duskritinas, right? And these people, they're, yeah, I mean, they do have intelligence, and to convince such a person it's a whole nother, you could say, battle, actually, to convince such people about Krishna consciousness. You know, mudhas, you just, I don't know, you feed them some prasadam, you get them chanting the holy name, and then they become devotees, they become transformed, and they may ask some philosophical questions. But these Duskritinas, I mean, they really question things. Like, why do you accept Bhagavad Gita as it is? Why do you accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead? What's the... I mean, that's just... I mean, these are like basic, but it gets a lot deeper. Now, Prabhupada, he wanted those people to be convinced, because those people, if their intelligence is properly directed, can do a lot of good for the world, for the Hare Krishna movement, and for the world. Means they could learn the philosophy, teach. You could say that these people are like misdirected Brahmins. And ultimately, what is the result of all of their philosophy? Because they're there, they're brain firing the professors and the students, and right, they're really speculating a lot and asking questions, and really, which, is in many ways good, but unfortunately but what is the conclusion? Prabhupada said they go to watch, what did he say, naked dance shows in the evening, as Prabhupada said. That's the result of their philosophy. And actually, that's just lightly speaking. Prabhupada said a lot more graphic things. What the civilization's based on, which we won't mention here in the Bhagavatam class. Prabhupada didn't mention it in the Bhagavatam class, but he mentioned it privately. Much more graphic things than that. That's the result of their philosophy. So they're up there speaking and this and that, and then they get out of the classroom. This is the day business. Their day business is brain firing, speculating. Night business is something else. So the challenge of becoming a learned person, it's not just philosophizing. It's not just learning to use, logic and reason. And it's not just knowing the philosophy, but there needs to be a transformation of the heart. And that comes by chanting Hare Krishna. That comes by purifying. It's not just enough to philosophize. We have to become purified. Education is one thing, right? We have to know. Of course, the classes is a form of purification. But ultimately, as this verse is as Srila Prabhupada's quoting here, so many verses, that Hare nāma, Hare nāma, Hare nāmaiva kevalam, that the chanting of the holy name, that is the transformative process for this particular age. And without it, it's like Maharaj, in the Bhagavatam, the discussion's brought up about atonement, right? People, they come to church, they come to the temple, come to the mosque, oh, please forgive me, God, I've sinned, right? But they say, what's the use of such atonement? They just go out and they sin again. And that's the thing, there's no transformation happening. Or you could say it's very slowly happening. But a lot of times it's not happening at all, in terms of getting free from sinful activity. Whereas Prabhupada would say, every day, 1,000 prostitutes take bath in the Ganga. And then what do? They go out and they continue their business. So there's no transformation happening. It's, you could say, mechanical religion. So yeah, there has to be that transformation. So our process is Hare Krishna chanting. That is our process, whether we like it or not. I mean, some devotees quite, you could say, in a wry way, they say, members of the Hare Krishna movement, for example, Borijan Prabhu, he says, I'm waiting, I'm hoping that the Hare Krishna becomes popular, the chanting of Hare Krishna becomes popular in the Hare Krishna movement. Mentioning how, devotees may not like it. So that could be a problem. What happens if you don't like the process for the age? That could be a problem. Or that is a problem. Now, what's the solution? That means jaundice. That means diseased. But what is the solution? The solution is to serve a Vaishnav. Syan Mahatseva Vipra Punya Tirtana Shevana Shushu Shoshradana Sya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahatseva Vipra Punya Tirtana Shevana. By serving great souls who are completely free from vice, great service is done, and one gains a taste for hearing the messages of Vasudeva Krishna. One gains a taste for chanting the holy names. Now the problem comes. What if we don't want to serve the Vaishnavas? What if we don't like that? It's a problem. What if we don't like it? We don't like to serve Vaishnavas. We don't like to chant, and then we don't like to serve Vaishnavas. That's a very difficult situation. So that's what happens in Kali-yuga. People just dig themselves deep in a hole, very difficult, a dark well, right? Very difficult to get out. So at least we should try to understand with our intelligence that serving Vaishnavas is that I should have a taste for the chanting of the holy name. And if we don't have a taste, then we need to understand how we need to have a taste by our intelligence. And then with our intelligence, we should understand, okay, how do I get a taste? By serving Vaishnavas. And you say, I don't like that. Well, with our intelligence, we need to become convinced that we should serve the Vaishnavas. And this is a process. And without becoming convinced about this, then there's no transformation. It's a mechanical religion. I mean, it's a mechanical religious person. Yeah. So, and if we don't understand this, then as mentioned, then you have the danda. Means the danda of the threefold miseries of material existence. You don't want to chant, you don't like to chant, you want to act against your true nature as a soul. You don't want to serve Vaishnavas, you want to try to, make it without, okay, fine, danda. Stick. Now, of course, Srila Prabhupada, one time he was speaking about science and scientific preaching, and then there was a kirtan going on downstairs. And then Srila Prabhupada, and then one devotee said, "Oh, Prabhupada, there's kirtan going on, let's go downstairs." And then they went downstairs, and then Prabhupada commented to Srup Damodar, and then he said, "They do not know what is kirtan." In other words, Srila Prabhupada having his conversation with Srup Damodar, that is considered kirtan, the glorification of Krishna. And if you analyze Acharya's lives, like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, much of his time was spent speaking with people, like Bhagavatam. He would give very long classes, like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3-hour classes. So there are different ways of kirtan, having kirtan, but one should not neglect the mridanga kartal kirtan in saying, "Oh, I have other kirtan to do," but then not do that kirtan. In other words, one has to be absorbed in something: writing, reading, preaching to others, Harinam Sankirtan, book distribution. Much of this falls in the realm of kirtan, but one should be engaged in kirtan. Kirtaniya sadahari, always engaged in kirtan. And in relation to that kirtan, there's 10 offenses, which we say every day, every morning. And one of those offenses is the blasphemy of the Vaishnavas. Now, again, without transformation of the heart, we just keep on doing that. That's just, that's our default position. We hear it every morning, we say it every morning, or we think about it, right? But then throughout the day, I understand it's a challenge. It's a challenge. Clearly, it's a challenge. But the point being is that there needs to be a transformation, and by having that transformation, one doesn't commit Vaishnava. That's the whole point. They need to have a transformation by which they come to a point where they do not commit Vaishnava aparadha. There needs to be a transformation. But without that transformation of consciousness, there's always going to be Vaishnava aparadha. So again, it's pointing to the need for transformation, the transformation, or you could say awakening of Krishna consciousness. And of course, knowing that we're not on that level, there are methods that are prescribed for one who commits Vaishnava aparadha, right? Which is described in Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur's book. Okay, you go to that Vaishnav, you beg for forgiveness, you offer some service. They should forgive you, but sometimes they don't. So what do? Then you take shelter of the holy name. And this not forgiving, it should not be seen as, oh, they just have a big false ego. They haven't put their ego aside. They should immediately forgive me. But there's different things going on there. I mean, as humans, we're not, right? We're not absolutely stupid. As humans, we're not stupid. We have a sense. Okay, how now, of course, we have to be careful about that. Sometimes it's hard to know, but there are ways that will help us, you could say, that indicate whether someone's really serious or not. In other words, if somebody like severely offends you and then they just come up and just, act like everything's okay, and then they just give some cheap apology, why should there be some reciprocation? Anyways, it's a whole other thing. But the prescribed method is there, that we go to the Vaishnav, we offer sincere service, sincere apology, serious and sincere service and apology. Has to be heartfelt, or it doesn't work. Again, mechanical. Mechanical things don't work. And then one is absolved of that offense. So there are, you could say, methods of getting free. But ultimately, it's not that we want to go our whole life engaged like this. Ultimately, we want to come to the point where we don't offend. It is possible. Can you believe it? It's possible. And this, becoming free from this offense of Vaishnava aparadha, is so, it really helps us in relation to becoming closer to the goal, Krishna Prem. Of course, there's other offenses that are mentioned, which we won't get into now. But yeah, in conclusion, there's a process for this age, which is chanting the holy name of Krishna. Of course, there's other forms of kirtan as well. And the point is, the main thing is to be engaged in those forms of kirtan, kirtaniya sada hari, and to really want a transformation of consciousness, to seriously want to be free from the propensity to criticize Vaishnavas, commit Vaishnava aparadha, and to really want to have a taste for the holy name. And that taste will come if we engage in it. And as Indrayumna Swami likes to quote, japa is considered perfect, and kirtan with devotees is considered more perfect, and kirtan out on the streets, giving it to the public, that's considered most perfect. Quoting some acharya, one of the acharyas. So, does anybody have any question or comment? Yes, Dharmaraj, you picked up the mic quick.
Can you expand more on the point of how exactly serving the Vaishnav gives you more taste for chanting?
Okay. Well, Shushusho Sharadanasya, that verse, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 16, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport how we develop the qualities of the persons we serve or we associate with. In other words, their mood rubs off, or their, you could say, qualities rub off on us. Just like I remember there was one brahmachari here, and he went to go visit his family. And his family, I guess, they tend to, what's that? I'm not sure if it's an English word or if it's a slang. Cuss? Is that a slang? Slang. Yeah, or curse, yeah. They tend to curse a lot, use foul language. Profanity. 4-letter words. We get the idea, right? So he associated with them for about a week, and then he came back, and he had the tendency to do that. He was really struggling with that. And then, so by that association, it was affecting him. Or like, for example, this same devotee was telling me that before he became a devotee, he had a habit of going to some hamburger place. That was his habit. And they used to bring this Indian fellow with them. And the Indian fellow, he would get a veggie, burger. But over association time, the Indian manager said, all right, by association. So association is very strong. And we could develop habits of the people we hang out with. But also, we should understand that those habits turn into forms of consciousness, it molds our consciousness in a certain way. Like, for example, cursing or not cursing, or eating meat or not eating meat, it forms our consciousness in a particular way. So we're associating with devotees, and we're seeing, wow, these people, they have so much taste for chanting Hare Krishna. They have so much attraction. It seems like they're experiencing something. So we naturally are convinced to a degree to engage in those particular activities. And then their association and their service, one develops that attraction to Krishna, and specifically the qualities. One gets the qualities of the person they serve. Does anyone else have any thoughts about that? Yes, Sriveda Prabhu.
There's also the aspect that, we talk about getting a taste for the holy name and so forth. All of these, this is like gifts. This is Krishna's gift from within your heart. He's there, right? So there's nothing that makes him happier than to see his devotees being served. When you serve his devotee, especially pure devotee, of course, then that itself is so pleasing to him that he gives you advancement, in the sense of advancing your taste for everything related to Krishna.
Yes.
So that's an important aspect too.
Yeah. Yeah, the devotees are so dear to Krishna, so if we serve them, then as Sriveda Prabhu says, then Krishna is pleased. And then that's the whole principle of bhakti. We please Krishna, then we become purified, and the natural qualities awaken within us, qualities for taste, for chanting, and so on. As one devotee said, that if you serve Krishna, then the Guru is pleased. And if you serve the Guru, then Krishna is pleased. And if you serve the Vaishnavas, both Guru and Krishna are pleased. He came up with this. So, does anybody have any other?
Krishna, thank you for a wonderful class. There's a lot we can add and comment on. I was just thinking, you said that if we don't have a taste for chanting, then we should serve the Vaishnavas. If we don't have a taste for serving Vaishnavas, then it's pretty much hopeless. But the tendency, I think, is that we don't want to serve certain Vaishnavas. And I was reading in the Bhagavatam, there's a text that if somebody is neutral to you, his association should be avoided. And if somebody is a friend to you, you should act and associate with them as with your own self. So my question would be, in this regard, is we discriminate due to not transparent consciousness, and Bhagavatam recommends to avoid people who are, or devotees who are neutral to us.
Where is that in the Bhagavatam?
It's in the 10th canto, when the pastime of Govardhan Hill, chapter 24, text 5, I think.
Okay.
So what would you say about that, since Bhagavatam recommends avoiding devotees who are neutral to us?
I'd like to look at the verse. You have the verse?
One who is neutral may be avoided like an enemy, but a friend should be considered like oneself.
Can I see? Is there a purport there?
Yeah.
Can I see? Pass it to the nice man.
10:24, 5.
One who's neutral may be avoided like an enemy, but a friend should be considered like one's own self. Purport. Even if Nanda Maharaj did not see friends, enemies, and neutral parties as entirely equal, Lord Krishna, being Nanda Maharaj's son, was certainly a most trustworthy friend, should therefore not be left out of intimate discussions. In other words, Nanda Maharaj might have thought that as a householder he could not act on the highest saintly platform. And thus Lord Krishna furnished additional reasons why his father should trust him and reveal the entire purpose of the sacrifice. I mean, here at this particular point, Krishna is giving Nanda Maharaj different reasons why he should tell him the purpose of the sacrifice, of the Indra yajña. Right? That's what's going on. I mean, in terms of neutral, I mean,
It doesn't seem like that text is talking about the association between Krishna, but I think it's just talking about diplomacy and dealings with others. I don't think it's tenable in which we're taking this as an injunction of the relationship association.
you want to speak into the mic?
I guess I was thinking that seems more like an instruction in diplomacy rather than an instruction in how devotees should associate with each other. Because it says like that verse in the Upadeshamrita Krishneti yasya kritam manasadriyeta. Well, yeah, specifically that line, like one who chants the name of Krishna, even one. Well, Mahaprabhu says, and then it kind of clarifies that also. He says one who chants the name of Krishna even once should be mentally offered respect, and should be considered to be like very, very great personality. So I don't think, doesn't seem to me like that's entirely relevant for the association between devotees.
Because one may think that, oh, this person's neutral. Like if you look up this word neutral, not helping or supporting either side in a conflict, okay, that's one definition. Having no strongly marked or positive characteristics or feature, the tone was neutral, okay. An impartial, unbiased country or a person. Yes, you want to add something?
Well, just that here it seems the context is different. It's just distinguishing there are these three categories. You have friends, enemies, and the neutral. And so naturally, you prioritize friends over the other two. And so compared to friends, the other two are basically one category. Enemies and neutral is one category, and there's friends, the higher priority. But we don't, like you were saying, this is Krishna saying, giving different reasons. And as he's saying, that we don't necessarily, emphasize. And as Mogalila was saying, this isn't about like Vaishnava association, how to associate with other people. But also, even though Krishna is saying this, we don't exactly agree with him that you should prioritize your children over like the devas or something like that. That your children are like your friends, they're really close to you, therefore you should prioritize them over like the demigods who are neutral to you. We don't really agree with that. But here, it's another argument for his case.
Another thing is also that Krishna was making a lot of false arguments in this.
Yeah, that's true.
To convince
like karma
Nanda Maharaj.
mimamsa, things like that. But like in relation to Vaishnavas, because generally, or it's a lot of times seen, I say generally, but it's a lot of times seen that like people, everyone needs affection. Everyone needs affection. That's just a fact. And that affection comes in different forms, like just friendship, communication, spending time together. And we need that in Krishna consciousness. Everyone needs that. Brahmacharis need that. They need to have friends. They need to have deep relationships and so on. But then sometimes it may seem that, oh, this person's, I'm a brahmachari and I need that, but like people aren't giving that to me. But I need it. And there's different reasons for that. It's a lot of the times we may have a hard time reaching out to others. It's a big problem in the world, actually. People are lonely, people are suffering, people are struggling, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but then they don't reach out to others. But they need that. So, therefore, so what are you supposed to do? Reach out, right? Chant Hare Krishna, Suresh. That's a solution to all problems. But we need to actually learn, we need to learn how to extend ourselves. Because I may see Saul and I say, well, he's a real neutral guy. You know, I tell him something, he doesn't laugh. I ask him his opinion or something and he just shrugs his shoulders. He's a kind of neutral guy. As Tyler said, he made some comment about living with Saul. What was the comment? Yeah, anyways. So, but if I reach out to Saul and I say, hey, let's go on a walk, for example, or let's talk about, this or that or whatever, let's chant together, or let's cook or something, then he'll reciprocate. So Vaishnavas, they may seem to be, standoffish, or generally, right? Vaishnavas may seem to be like this. There's all different types of Vaishnavas, but when you get a little close to them, they're actually quite open persons. Yeah, anyways, I'm not sure if this really... I hope it satisfies you to some degree.
Yeah, that actually makes me think of maybe more of an introverted person. It's just kind of their nature, but it doesn't mean that, like you just said, that they can't open up or reciprocate, right?
I don't really think Saul's
no,
like
I'm not
that. I was just, for example.
I'm not saying, you're talking about that just made me think of, someone that's introverted.
Yes.
may seem neutral.
Yeah, introverted person may seem neutral. So you gotta. Anyways, you had another comment about that, Dujamani? And then we'll just end with some news about Saul, and then yes.
I just wanted to hear the thoughts on this, and it makes sense what devotees were adding up to it. So, thank you.
Dadati Pritigunati, offering gifts, accepting gifts, offering prasadam, accepting prasadam, revealing one's mind and confidence, inquire confidentially. These are the 6 forms of priti, affection between devotees. And generally, if we try having those engagements with devotees are very open for that. Just ask Ramapati, Prabhu, you want to go on a walk? He'll say yes. And then walking means talking. It means talking about Krishna consciousness. So generally devotees are open to that. And if they're not open to that, that's very unfortunate. And you just find somebody who is. Okay, Saul has a comment, and then I have some news about Saul, and then we'll end.
Well, number 2 tomorrow, she was saying, what brings us pain is relationships, but what brings us worse pain is no relationships.
That's a good one. So the news about Saul is that Saul sent his japa beads to Prahladananda Swami in Lithuania. They were stuck in Belgium for 2 weeks, the beads, but now they've made it to Lithuania, and Maharaj said he chanted on them and he's going to send them back. So that means he's going to get some beads and a name, and then we'll have a Zoom initiation, and then no more Saul, no more soul, No more Sal. We have another name. So, okay, Grantrad Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.